Welcome, everyone. I'm Melissa Gilbert. I'm president of the board. This is a Monday, June 22nd, special meeting of the Board of School Directors. As we have for some time now, we're obviously meeting using Zoom. This is due to Governor Wolf's mandate. So the meeting is public and recorded using Zoom. Public comments will be taken in advance and during the meeting to the following email account: boardpubliccomment@lmsd.org. That's boardpubliccomment, no S, at lmsd.org. Every consideration will be given to read the comments, but can't be guaranteed, and public comments that are not read will be posted excuse me, to the agenda the following day. No live comments will be taken, and all participants are muted. And when emailing, please state your full name and address within the district so that we can read your comment. Okay. At this time, you can see on the agenda that, oh, I'm sorry, Denise, you're sharing the agenda. I actually thought I was being disconnected at that moment. Had a moment.
No, I'm so sorry.
Panic. I was like, okay, I apologize. So at our last board meeting, I stated that the Board of School Directors stands with our youth and other community members to demand an anti-racist agenda be pursued and declare that Black Lives Matter. So we talked about the board believing that we need to eradicate white supremacy and heteropatriarchy in all of our institutions, but especially our schools, because that's where we as a board have the most power to affect change, and that this has been and will continue to be the goal of the board, but that we wanted to do better. And we've continued to be very proud of our youth who are leading many of these calls for change. And we keep hearing in different forums that many of our youth are telling us that they don't feel safe, that they're not feeling heard or represented in our schools. And as I said before, this is unequivocally not acceptable. So what we're doing is we're committing to hear your stories and listening to your voices as we redouble our efforts to pursue an anti-racist agenda in our schools as part of our wider community. So in order to coordinate and focus our efforts, I have created an ad hoc committee on equity and anti-racism. So that's what you see on the agenda. The committee is going to be chaired by School Board Director Sean Mooring, who is also co-chair of curriculum. And in addition, the committee will have other board members: Lucy Klein, who's the vice president and co-chairs of both policy and finance; Peter Lee, who is co-chair of facilities; and Shana Kalish, who is co-chair of communications. And I'm ex officio the way I am on every committee. So the goal of having this committee is to have a focus on establishing an action agenda for the board and administration to develop strategies to bolster our existing equity efforts and implement an anti-racist agenda throughout the district. And the idea of having the committee with the people who are on it and the co-chairs of curriculum, policy, facilities, finance, and communication is that we can then take these action items back to all of our committees in order to be able to implement change as quickly as possible. But I think also importantly is the goal of the committee to serve as a sounding board to engage in kind of two-way listening with our students and parents and teachers and members of the community. So we want to make sure we have a forum to engage with everyone concerned with racism and equality and all of our students, but particularly African American students. So sometimes our other committee, because of the type of committees they are, they happen, maybe during school hours, or they happen in the morning. We want to make sure that we have a committee that can serve to provide a for two-way communication here. And this committee is going to be serving more as a coordinating body alongside our already existing and independent equity efforts, so CARE and the Achievement Imperative Task Force. So it's not replacing any of those important committees. It's in addition to that, and our administrative liaison will be Superintendent Copeland. And so that will be at those sort of highest levels in which we will move forward. So we're, we're excited about this committee. We want this committee to move forward as quickly as possible. We recognize that traditionally we don't do a lot of active committee work over the summer, sort of in recognition of the fact that our school community is not always as actively engaged over the summer. But particularly given the COVID situation, we feel that many people would be willing to engage, and we're going to have some ways of engaging over this summer, although we will also be, working in the fall as well. So if people want to join in later, that's fine also. So right now we're still in the process of working out the details, and we expect to have our first meeting, mid-July. And so I want to thank Sean Mooring, Lucy Klein, Peter Lee, and Shayna Kalish for agreeing to serve on that committee. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. At our last meeting, we recognized students and organizations who had won state championships. Since then, we've learned of additional winners. So our congratulations go out to 3 students from Harrington High School who won the DECA state competition. They are Camille Fuhrer, Sophie Weinstein, who won the Business Law and Ethics Team Decision-Making event, and Alexander Young, who won in the entrepreneurship category. Congratulations to all of them. I'd also like to mention that our National Services Team, Nutritional Services Team, which have been supporting our nurses and operations teams, are running a free summer meal program for children, which started today. Meals are being distributed from the rear of Lower Merion High School from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Mondays and Tuesdays. Each child will receive 7 breakfasts and 7 lunches each week. I'd also like to give a bit of a shout out to Suburban Square Mall, who allowed us to use their facilities and parking lot during the summer as a location to distribute meals. That concludes my highlights.
Thank you very much, Mr. Copeland. Before we move to audience recognition, do you want to, Mr. Copeland, who I don't know, I can't see now. I was just seeing you. There you are. Do you want to do the highlights from the agenda that you were going to review, or do you?
Yeah, I think we can go to the audience. I'm thinking now maybe we go to audience recognition and then follow up with the highlights.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Then, Mr. Roos, do we have any public comment at this time?
Yes, we do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. We have 4, nothing too lengthy. We have first public comment is from Jackie Muniz, a junior at Lower Merion. She states, I'm writing to you to express my continued frustration with how our district has or hasn't responded to the current allegations against the school. I am sure you've seen or heard of the Black Mainline Speaks Instagram account. Horrible, traumatic events have been reported to have happened in Lower Merion schools, and the district has yet to respond. As a Black student in this district, I found these stories extremely disheartening, but not surprising. Racism runs deep here. It's teachers, campus aides, and yes, even administration. There are stories of administrators recently gaslighting the experiences of Black students, guidance counselors undercutting the potential of Black students, teachers calling the police on Black students while the students were in the school building. It's absurd and insulting to claim that our schools are a safe place for all students while Black students are treated like this. Meanwhile, whenever I talk to administrators, they tell me we're working on fixing the district. There is no proof of this. If there's action being taken, it needs to be transparent because right now it seems like the district is doing nothing. The recent milquetoast statements are not going to cut it. In the statement about the murder of George Floyd, the words race and racism were used once each. Race was used in reference to the CARE program. It's impossible to talk about what is happening in our country without acknowledging the root of the problem, racism. It's plain, simple, and undeniable. Lower Merion School District needs to recognize its role in systematic racism. The cover-ups need to stop. At the June 7th protest, the president of the school board claimed that all police officers were taken out of our schools. Then why do I see police cars and officers at our school multiple times a week? They are in the office and in the halls. It doesn't matter who they are part of a racist system. Now the district is hiding their tagged post from the Black Mainline Speaks account. When will the cover-ups end? The past is in the past and it needs to be recognized, but it's time to change for the future. The district has not provided an open forum for students, parents, and faculty of color to express their views and feelings about the state of race relations in our community. Rather, there has been fruitless conversation and seemingly no action. We need more and we need better. The next comment is from Phoenix Johnson, a student at the Lower Merion High School going into 10th grade. I am very disappointed. After the protest held at Lower Merion, I expected there to be some kind of immediate change, big or small. The point was to bring light to the issues and force you, the school board, especially to listen and take initiative. However, when I heard an explanation of the process to simply get a comment or message across to the board, it was highly alarming. If the board was truly open and willing to hear students' voices and feedbacks, it should not be this difficult. I should not have to submit my comment first and then come to find out that it may not even be mentioned in the meeting. I should be able to speak during the meeting as well. Without hearing my concerns from my mouth, you can easily ignore its meeting. I'm afraid that the only comments shared will be the ones that people are comfortable with sharing, and this is counterproductive. Please fix this. Allow an open conversation during these board meetings. Be more flexible in the sense that more people, students especially, give you the raw truth and emotion of the experiences and issues people of color in the district that you manage that causes us to feel unsafe and unheard. How do you make necessary change if you don't know what exactly you are changing? In many instances, students/youth can offer insight that adults don't have the capability of delivering. So what I ask is that you don't filter the conversation. We are an intelligent group of students who have no issue voicing our opinions respectfully and appropriately if that is the concern. The next comment is from Dr. Andrea Gosfield, Penn Valley, Pennsylvania. I'm writing regarding my continuing concerns sparked by the racist social media posts by current students and the adverse impact that racism and hate are having on our children and families. On June 3rd, 2020, I wrote to the board on behalf of numerous community members to submit both short and long-term requests to combat racism with LMSD. That letter was received and read aloud during your regular board meeting on June 8th, 2020. Also during the regular LMSD board meeting on June 8, 2020, President Melissa Gilbert stated several times that the board is committed to dismantling white supremacy within the LMSD. Here is an opportunity to stand behind these public statements and advance much needed anti-racism training right now. Today on your June 22nd at your 2020 at your special board meeting, a vote will be taken on Dr. Tara Doty and her Sage Wellness Group organization. This item is listed on a board agenda special meeting states, approve the contract with Dr. Tara Doty, Sage Wellness Group, to provide professional learning regarding racial equity in care and other venues for the 2021 school year in a not to exceed amount of $49,500. Respectfully, I ask the contract amount be tripled to an amount not to exceed $148,500. Request this increase in the maximum amount of Dr. Doty's contract to make sure that funds are allocated for Dr. Doty and her organization's Sage Wellness Group to continue contributing to the LMSD's cultural proficiency, and more specifically, anti-racism work with all staff and students of LMSD as requested in my June 3rd, 2020 comments. Many members of the LMSD staff and Lower Merion community have provided positive feedback about Dr. Doty's express willingness to expand her group's scope of services to include anti-racism training for LMSD staff and students in 2021. There's about 3 short paragraphs left. In the alternative, I asked that if Dr. Doty and her SAGE Wellness Group are somehow unable to provide services up to a contract value of $148,500, that the board at its special meeting tonight vote to earmark any unused fund in Dr. Doty's contract so that such unused earmarked funds are expressly reserved to engage another expert, individual, or organization that can provide anti-racism training to LMSD staff and all students during the 2021 academic year. Accordingly, in lieu of the agenda item listed for Dr. Doty, I ask the board to vote to approve the following at its special meeting this evening. Approve the contract with Dr. Tara Doty, SAGE Wellness Group, to provide professional and student learning regarding racial equity in care and other venues for the 2020-21 school year in an amount not to exceed amount of $148,500, with any unused contract funds to be reserved expressly to contract with an alternate racial equity expert for similar services the 2020-21 school year. My expectation is that the board will move swiftly to fulfill its duty to ensure that LMSD upholds its stated goals of creating a safe space for all students, combating racism, and protecting the African American community from further harm while listening to and address the demands of our community. And the last comment is a very short comment from Alexis Haynes. The repercussions for hate speech need to be more serious than a simple 3-day suspension. You're making a whole population of students feel unsafe and unwelcome when you use hateful redirect. The football coach announced that anyone involved in any racist remarks would be dismissed from the football team. That needs to apply to all students and activities. It needs to be established from this age that racism will not be tolerated and you should face consequences for it. We can't change anyone's heart, but we can make sure that they think twice before doing something like that. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Mr. Copeland, is there anything you want to respond to there?
I can certainly respond to the issue of Dr. Doty. I've had extensive contacts with Dr. Doty. Last year, she worked, as I think we mentioned, with both of the affinity groups, Spectrum Scholars, Power Group at the high schools. We had intended, and we still intend, to bring her in to talk to all students, beginning at the secondary level, and figure a way to do that safely, because we were going to bring her in for some auditorium presentations. She's also committed to working with groups of students of all races who want to help give voice within the school. This is the 3rd year we've had Dr. Doty, and I think we increased her contract last year during the year. It's not unusual for us to do that during the year once we see what the project is, and then we move on.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure, I think it's important people understand how the board process works. I think that Mr. Copeland is aware that the board supports professional development, and any change in contracts would have to go through a facilities and purchasing committee. There's a whole process for this, but I think the idea of what the person who wrote that comment, and I apologize that I don't remember their name off the top of my head right now, but the point is that we are very committed to continuing to engage in professional development for our staff, as well as to work with our students, and that again, our new ad hoc committee will be dealing with that as well. But I'm sorry. I want to assure you that this is a priority of the board, but it would normally go through a purchasing and facilities contract first. The other thing that I want to say, I think we had a couple of students that we have heard you, that we are, the board meetings are an opportunity for people to speak. Like a board meeting like tonight, like a Board of Education meeting, a Monday evening meeting, but it's where the board does its business. And given the COVID situation, we're doing this on Zoom. Normally you can come to the board meeting and actually speak directly to us. So that's one of the reasons why we want this ad hoc committee to be able to actually hold forums in which we can have people more directly interacting with us during a board meeting. And the issue of, I've had a number of students ask again about the issue. I did mention police in my statement at the protest when I spoke. I mentioned that in the context of what I've said is that under Superintendent Copeland, we have been using an equity lens throughout all of our board decision-making and board committees. And I gave the example of when we had the task force to deal with our response to the increase in school shootings, that we made a very deliberate decision not to bring armed police officers into our schools in that regard. And that was what I was speaking to. So this new committee will be addressing all of these issues, and we're looking forward to having our students come and speak with us so that we can, in fact, hear about your experiences and learn from you about what actually needs to be done. I think at this time, Mr. Copeland, do you want to, we have a number of issues that
a couple
on the
of
agenda.
other issues I thought it might be worthwhile to pull out for discussion. One is, I think as everybody knows, we have been for some time putting plans in place to construct a third middle school campus in the district. The public bidding process for that was completed last week, and tonight the administration is putting forth the bids that we're recommending be approved. That is item, I think it's K. Is that right, Mr. Orlando?
No, it's B.
It's B,
B.
8B.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, B. So we have our professionals here. Damian Spar from Rental Site Logic and our architects. Scott Downey and Rich Quinn from Spiesel Architects. And so they're prepared to give a summary overview of the bid process and answer any questions the board may have. So, Ms. LaPera, could you unmute Mr. Spar?
I just did, Scott. Let me get Damien in 2 seconds. Hold on.
Rich Quinn doesn't say much, but you might as well unmute him also.
I will. There you go, Damien.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. On June 16th, the school district and its professionals took bids for 6 different prime construction packages and received bids from 25 bidders. The total cost of all of those bids was estimated prior to COVID at a potential total cost of $86,700,000. The bids received, the lowest responsible bidder with the alternates selected, of which are recommended, of which there are 6, 2 in the general construction package and 4 in the electrical package, total a value of $74,221,992. This differential of about $12.5 million is under budget or under the target estimate that we had been carrying since schematic design by about 14.4%. A large part of why we are under budget is because of the expected economic turndown. I think we are under budget because we worked really hard to control costs, but without the expected economic turndown, I don't think we would be nearly this far under budget. I think the design team, the district administration, as well as our team at Reynolds Site Logic worked very diligently together to come to this end. We have, we'll be recommending IMC construction, including alternates for operable windows and additional acoustic insulation and treatment for the General Construction Award. We will be recommending the company 11400 for the Kitchen Construction Award. There are no alternates. The company Vision Mechanical for the Plumbing Construction Award. There are no alternates. The company Anchor Fire Protection for the Fire Protection Sprinkler Construction Package. Again, no alternates. The company JBM Mechanical for the HVAC or mechanical construction. Also no alternates. And finally, Borough Construction Electrical with alternates for a selected manufacturer of Hubble for lighting controls, a selected manufacturer of Kohler for the electrical generator, a selected manufacturer of Siemens for fire alarm system, and a selected manufacturer of Bogan for intercom. Those four alternates being recommended with that Borough Construction Award. There were several alternates that we had for competition, for manufacturer options, and for scope reduction, and they were not recommended. Thank you. That concludes my summary, and I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate the final number that you brought to us. We appreciate all your work on that. So I know that it has to do with the economy, but I think it also has to do with your hard work. So thank you. Are there any questions by board members? And just to remind you, you need to raise your hand, and Ms. LaPere is going to help me here by calling on folks. So is there anybody who'd like to ask a question or make a comment?
Yes, our first one is from Mr. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Spar. I think this is great news. Everyone's very happy. I'm curious, some of the vendors that you're recommending to award the bids, we have not worked with too much in the past, and some of the folks who aren't getting the bid, we do have longer standing relationships with. Could you talk a little bit about, are you concerned at all about some of the new vendors that we'd be working with?
Thank you. I'd be happy to address that. I am not, just to start with, I'm not concerned about the vendors that we're working with, because I have experience with the vendors that maybe are not familiar to the district. The first vendor of note is IMC Construction. While IMC is not typically working in Pennsylvania public school markets, I have actually built a middle school where IMC been involved in the project in this same role, where IMC was a general contractor, and that project did get finished on time and under budget. IMC is probably best known for, by many of you, the thing that you'd know the best is that they recently completed the expansion of the King of Prussia Mall. They do a good job with what I will call high-end construction. While public school districts are not high-end, the architects and the administration have put together one amazing middle school for Lower Merion. So I think that it's appropriate there, and I do not have any concerns about IMC. 11400 for kitchen is a common bidder. A lot of times the district uses Singer. Really, I take either one of those two vendors. For plumbing, I have worked with Vision Mechanical, and I don't take any exception or have any concern about them as being the plumbing contractor. Similarly with Anchor Fire Protection, BM Mechanical, worked with them, and we are doing business with them now. I'm familiar with the person that estimated the project. I've known him for many years and have a lot of faith in him. So I'm not concerned at all there. And Borough Electric have worked with many times and have complete faith in. So not only did the district get a good value for this school, partly because of the economy and thank you, Dr. Gilbert, maybe due to some good work as well. But I think we have a good pool of contractors, of cooperative contractors, and contractors that really want to do a good job for the district. So I have a lot of confidence, and in spite of the district maybe not having some direct experience, we have experience with them, and I feel really good about the project.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Ms. Finger is next.
Thank you. And this may be too in the weeds, but it kind of occurred to me when we were finishing up our exec meeting. But are there any of the design, are there any design features or elements that might have been changed, or were they taken into consideration during the bid process with respect to maybe some touchless COVID-19 sort of, not planning for a continued pandemic, but reducing some contact?
Mr. Downey, Mr. Quinn, do you remember whether we were touchless with faucets and our flush valves? I don't recall that we were, but I can say to that effect and others, we are going to be studying that. Design changes were not deliberately made. The time frame of bidding, we went out to bid after the epidemic.
Yeah, but I think we have the same situation that we have in the high schools, where you've got sensors and so forth, don't we, Rich?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have that, and we'll look to see if there's anything else that's appropriate. But so, not necessarily deliberately, but by the fact that good decisions about hygiene in design had been made prior by the district.
Great, perfect. Just wanted to make sure it was like falling under the original bid. Thank you for confirming.
Are there any other questions, Denise?
No, there are not.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Bob, do you want to?
Yeah. The other agenda item that I'm sure there's some a discussion on is for the opening of school in the green, and specifically the athletics. So what's happened over the last couple of weeks is we've moved more aggressively through the stages. We went from red to yellow, and then there was a change in the definition of what you could do in yellow. So for instance, under the old yellow, schools had to remain closed. Under the new yellow, schools can be open. And we get to the issue of what do we do about some of the summer workout schedules. The Pennsylvania Department of Education has basically said it's up to each individual school district to pass a COVID-19 health and safety plan. They've given us some guidance which talks about things that you should do or try to do, but basically leave it into the hands of the school district. So the administration, with our health professionals, our psychologists, because we're looking at health and wellness beyond just the hygiene, put together a plan that follows through with the PIAA recommendations for sports. Now, this is the plan that's being put forth is a plan based on the information that we have now. That plan, as a matter of fact, I'm led to believe there's going to be some new guidance on the 24th, 2 days from now. So the way the resolution is stated gives the superintendent the ability to upgrade the plan as time and more information become available. I know that Terry Quinlan is with us this evening. She's our supervisor for health, and she worked closely with the athletic directors, with the director of custodial supervisors, and she's here to answer some questions around that also. So That's just an overview of where we are. By the way, I'm going to let, unless you think we would need them, I would let our professionals, our architects and construction people go. Dr. Gilbert, unless you think we need.
I think that makes sense. Yes. Thank you.
Gentlemen,
See you all
remember that.
soon. Yes. See you all soon.
Thank you.
So I think if I'm going to open it up to questions by the board, but I want to just make sure that I understand this correctly. What this is going to, so the administration has taken the guidance from the state, from the Department of Education, from PIAA, and within those guidelines have come up with a plan that would allow for
Voluntary summer workouts.
Voluntary summer workouts, but also for fall sports. This covers fall sports as well, including contact sports. That's accurate, right? Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure. I think that I'd like to open it up for questions and comments from board members. Denise, I can't see with the agenda. I find it difficult to see everybody in the participant list. Are you able to?
Sean Mooring has a question.
Okay.
I'm muting him.
Denise, we can take down the agenda, I think, unless you want to keep it up there.
Well, I should have the action up there while it's being discussed.
All right.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mooring, you can go ahead.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. So I just wanted to just voice my concern. I understand that we're limited by the guidelines that were submitted by PIAA. But I think, in my opinion, I think that there is still a lot of unknown in terms of how we, with the spread of COVID and, the asymptomatic situations that we have with students. And I personally feel that the level of potential exposure is such, and because the way that the guidance is providing to essentially do the best that you can to, keep students socially distanced in terms of our ability to sanitize the rooms. I'm very reluctant, even with the guidance that's been provided.
Thank you. I see Shayna and then Lori. Is that okay, Denise? And now I can see the.
Yes, I didn't know if somebody was going to answer that, or Lori goes first.
I think we're going to have some comment on this because I think there's and.
Okay, so it is Miss Ackman and then Miss Kalish. Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't know where Lori went.
Lori, is she muted?
She was not a second ago. I'm not quite sure where she went.
Actually, look, she may have gotten disconnected. Let's move to Shayna, and then when she comes back in,
right.
Denise, can you monitor the?
Yep.
I'll be pretty brief. I don't know that I necessarily have feelings that we should do one thing or another, but I've been finding, I just wanted to make it publicly known that I've found the guidance that we've received from the Pennsylvania Department of Education to be lacking. It's been a little of, here are some good ideas, do the best that you can, come up with your own plan. And I'm really feeling the lack of leadership from our state government. And that said, I'm sort of uncomfortable with the degree to which we have our recommendations for operating in the school system the way a student would be expected to operate and distance during the school day in the school building. And then the school bell would ring and they'd change their clothes and go outside, or they'd go to the weight room and have a completely different set of distance rules and how that puts our greater school community at risk, because these children will go to practice and they will go home and then they will come to class the next day. I'm not saying that that necessarily means we should not approve that, but I think that everybody who is participating in these should really make a real self-evaluation and think about how to safely participate if they choose to do so for their family.
I think Lori was waiting. Thank you,
Yes, so
Sarah.
Ms. Ackman and then Ms. Klein.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I was muted. Thank you, and I appreciate the discussion. I do think we haven't been provided with a ton of guidance from the state. That being said, I think the district has put together a good initial plan based on the information we know. I also think that there's still a lot unknown about this virus. But I do think the state has done a very good job. We're one of 3 states that has had a steady decrease for the past, I think it's 42 days. And our curve is very flat. And the state is encouraging us to safely reopen some activities. And I know we have a lot of responsibility as the school and the school board to keep children safe. I also think that we have a lot of experts and expertise in the community that could help provide us some guidance. And I also think we're in a phase that's very uncomfortable for many of us. The virus is not going away. So we're learning a lot more about it every day, including how to treat it and how it impacts. And that's really helping actually in terms of our knowledge. But it's something we unfortunately are going to have to live with and try to do our best with and mitigate both during school and with activities. And I think we should make an effort to do that. I think, you know, there's inevitably going to be a learning curve, but the emotional, educational, and social toll on children as a result of this lockdown has been incredibly tremendous. And I think we owe it, we should do our best to figure out how we can restart as much of the lives of our constituents as we can safely. So I think sports is a part of that. I think there's an aspect of joint responsibility that everyone needs to commit to. And again, nothing is perfect. So, you know, we will try. The goal is to mitigate, but it's really impossible to stop. So we need to manage expectations. But I think we're being told by our public health leaders that it is time to try to get back to a new normal. And I think sports are part of that. I think we could also have a discussion about high, medium, and low risk sports maybe, and sports outside versus sports inside, the use of weight rooms versus practicing outside. So I think the district's trying to be really thoughtful about this, and I appreciate that. And I look forward to continuing to work on these important issues, which, you know, we have to do the best with the information we have.
Thank you, Lori. And I think we have Ms. Klein.
Ms. Klein. Yep.
Sorry.
No, thank you. I share a lot of the concerns about sort of moving from a complete lockdown and moving towards trying to reopen. And while I am very concerned about when it's, I guess where I'm coming from is, to me, there are several phases, and that first phase in July where it's not full on, but it's a little bit more, you know, that we're in the green and these are workouts. So I guess my take on it is that we need to be careful. Everyone, as we sort of reintegrate, is going to reintegrate at a different speed on a personal level as families. And I think that providing an opportunity in July for sort of a slower integration will help
a lot of families, and that we can, continue. I think that we'll be continually revisiting what that will look like and where we need to work, provide more guidance or to look for more guidance from the state. So I just wanted to put out there the idea that we can sort of move forward now, but make sure that we, have specific points in time as we move forward to sort of do another checkpoint.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
That's okay.
Thank you. I tend to agree as well. I think we can't really look. I'm having a hard time looking so far ahead. I think we can really only look as far as we can see, which is like, the immediate future. And, as Lucy said, this very, this initial step of having maybe some outdoor voluntary workouts where people can kind of ease their way in, as long as they are done safely, because there is there are the students who excel and their strengths, and where they shine is on the field. It may not be in the building, and I certainly understand that. And yet, I certainly understand the feelings of a parent of that nervousness of moving into a potentially unsafe situation. But I suppose if we, are able to start slowly and really only kind of think about just this first little step, this July step, rather than making a decision that's going to take us beyond July.
Okay, just to be clear, this is actually voting beyond July. So I just want people to remember that. Peter? Lee? Sorry, Peter.
Thank you. I guess I just wanted to ask clarifying questions mostly. Even though this does extend beyond July, there's nothing that prevents us from revisiting based on new information or new guidance. And certainly as written, the motion does empower the superintendent to make adjustments based on updated PIA guidelines, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, not only when we get new information, but that new information will include how students behave over the summer or respond to the guidance over the summer, and we have the opportunity to make adjustments with what we learn through practical experience.
Okay. And
the reason why we're taking a vote tonight is because this is to allow voluntary practices and weight room.
Correct.
Right, we're seeing this over some. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Peter.
And just from my perspective, this represents the best or the guidance from the state. And although, like I personally have concerns, certainly like you read things about the risks associated with people who are exercising, or, and how contagious they are versus not. Like, we don't actually know any information on top of what PIAA might know or the state might know. So this represents the guidance of the folks that we would look to.
Yes, but our own people also looked at our facilities, looked at the practicality, looked at to see if there were ways that we could make it work best for us too.
Okay.
Are there other hands up? I don't see any other hands
Mr.
up.
Mooring did have his hand up,
Yeah.
but then I don't know.
No, I wanted to get unmuted unless you have someone else you wanted to.
Well, no, I would like to say something, but I can do
Absolutely.
it
No,
after
go
you,
ahead. Go ahead, because I spoke already, but I'll follow up.
No, that's okay. I go last. But I have serious concerns because I don't have concerns about the fact that the administration has done its due diligence and is working within what the state and PIAA. So my concerns are not from what the administration is proposing. My concern is a larger issue, which is we're making it very clear that goal here is to mitigate. It's not to prevent students or faculty or coaches or community members from getting ill. The goal is to mitigate to the extent possible. And I have, frankly, a concern that that we are always talking about the fact that our curricular and co-curricular are equal in our school district, and I believe that to be true in normal circumstances. Is it are we actually saying that athletics, and I would go on to say things like, we haven't gotten to that yet, but chorus and plays, and I don't want it to be just about athletics, these other activities, when we know that there is a risk, is it worthwhile to be taking that risk, given how little we know? And I understand that public health officials and certainly are suggesting that we need to open up, but my question is really is it worth the risk for these types of activities at this point? And that's my concern. Sean?
Yeah, no, that again is just kind of echoing my feelings in understanding that, and I guess my reluctance or my issue is really not with the administration and the work that we've put in to even add additional requirements, but that because there is such continues to be such an existing unknown, that whether the risk is as you said, is it worth it, especially since we know that at least the state guidance at this point around things like band and around things like chorus are not to do them because of those added risks in terms of when you're projecting your voice. And so if you're out on the field in instructing young people, that you're going to have to speak at a louder place, but then that projects to droplets even further. So I think that there's a lot for us to consider and whether or not it's advantageous to take this added risk because it's sports and not something else.
Lori Ackman? Is Ackman?
Sorry, hold on. There you go.
I think there are, I think we all agree that, there's a lot of unknowns, and that's just something we're unfortunately have to work through. I think there are some differences between indoor and outdoor, and how close you are to someone perhaps in a chorus in a traditional sense versus being on a large playing field, and the way I'm sure courses will have to change somewhat in order for us to make them safe as well. But again, I think part of what we're trying to do is figure out the best path forward, and I think we have to do our best to put the best framework we can, and I think the administration is doing that with their resources. And then there is some element of individual decision making based on your comfort level, the comfort level of your child, and I think it's important that that there's some ability to do that. So I think, I'm not sure having these co-curricular activities not exist is the path that we should be going on. I think we're really trying to educate the whole child, and we want to provide as many opportunities as we can safely, as we're learning more every day to do that. And I think this district is in a good position to do that. I don't think these activities are gonna, you know, destroy the house of cards around the educational program. And, you know, I think a lot of us did some things recently where we gathered outside safely for very important issues, and it turned out to be okay. So I think there's a little bit of, you know, we're going to have to try things safely and see how they go. And I'm very thankful that a lot of the recent events have gone safely. And I just, we just have to do our best.
Okay, I appreciate your perspective. I'm not sure I would compare contact sports to people voluntarily being at rallies, but but I take your point that we don't know, we don't have a lot of information there. Are there other people who want to speak? I can't.
Miss Kalish.
Go ahead, Shana.
I just wanted to, from listening to what everybody's saying, I think part of what a lot of us seem to be uncomfortable with is right now, a lot of the indoor practice. And so something like use of weight rooms and things like that. And I just wanted to put out the idea that perhaps we as a board might want to request that the administration reevaluate such that outdoor only practice for now, for some period of time, be allowed for the current period, and that indoor activities would be limited to changing the locker rooms and then going outside to help maybe give people a little bit of a higher sense of safety and comfort for the activities being only taking place outside where there's a lot more ventilation.
Mr. Copeland, do you have a suggestion here? Because
sorry,
I don't. I would have to consult with the athletic directors.
where, I'm sorry, did somebody else have?
I'm sorry, yes, Mr. Driscoll also has raised his hand, and I believe that's it.
Okay, let's go with Mr. Driscoll, since he hasn't spoken.
Thank you very much. I get where everybody is, and I think I'm more concerned about what are we going to do come mid-August, early September, because that's kind of that's a bigger date, 8,900 kids we got to deal with. I'm looking at this as a way to voluntarily get students to kind of start to reopen where we can. It's not going to be perfect in any way, shape, or form, but I do think that we do need to find ways to move forward. And I guess I'm looking at this, at least in the month of July, as a reasonable, it's a reasonable first step into figuring out what we can do going forward. But I will, and I know the administration will look at this very aggressively. And if August looks different than, end of June does, I know the administration will look into that and make changes very quickly and very correctly to try to mitigate this as best we can. I wish we had a crystal ball. I wish we had the vaccine. I wish we had a lot of things. But I think this might be the right first step to get us going in that direction. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Driscoll. Mr. Copeland, do you want to respond to any of this? Or?
Sure. The one thing I would say is, again, I can talk with Terry Quinlan, our supervisor of health and safety, and our athletic directors to maybe look again at the training facilities. One of the other items that are on the agenda tonight, which isn't going to help for July, is I'm asking the board to give approval to a not to exceed contract to a rental site Logic, that was Damian Spar, who was here, to do research on our HVAC system. He's recently made me aware of a technology called bipolar ionization, which attaches to the HVAC system. It's actually, they tell me it's a technology that's been around since the 1970s, but because of COVID-19 has renewed interest. That there's apparently research that's been done on other viruses, SARS and MERS. It's heavily used in airports, and he's going to do an investigation to see what the cost of that would be to install that, to have better air circulation and have it kill viruses indoors. Won't help July, but it would help when school starts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Copeland. I think at this time we should take a vote. Oh, what I would like to do, sorry, because I want to move to the agenda, but I think on this issue, which, not the current one that's up, Denise, but the health and safety plan, what number is that?
I've got it. It's
I would like to take that one separately at this time. So can we take that one first?
Yes.
Who's going to read that? Is that, do you want me to?
That would be Mr. Orlando. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry, Vic.
I can.
There he goes. He's up.
Okay. This is item B, 8B, correct?
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the LMSD PIAA Athletics Health and Safety Plan effective July 6, 2020, in order to promote the safe and orderly operation of school district athletic program during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is recommended the Board of School Directors approve the LMSD PIAA Athletics Health and Safety Plan effective July 6, 2020. The board authorizes the superintendent or his designee to make any actions the superintendent deems necessary without further board approval to ensure the safety of participating students to the extent authorized by law, and irrespective of any policies that may be to the contrary, including minor revisions to the plan. Any action taken by the superintendent or his designee in accordance with authorization shall be deemed to be the action of the board. Such action shall be confirmed by the board no later than at its next regular board meeting.
Okay, thank you, Vic. So what I need everybody to do is to use the raise hand function under participants, even for giving motion so that Denise can actually see what's going on. So do I have a motion to approve?
Ms. Sackman, yes, thank you.
Do I have a second?
And that would be Ms. Finger. Thank you.
Okay, so can you guys put your hands down? And I'm going to say all those in favor, now raise your hand using the participant. So that looks like, is everybody raise their hand who wants it? That looks like Lori Ackman, Lucy Klein, Ben Driscoll, Deborah Finger, Peter Lee, and Shayna Kalish, and somebody who I don't recognize. So
I will lower that hand. Thank you.
You're not going to vote, unfortunately, at this time. And then, okay, so everybody please put your hands down to put in the participant. Okay, so everybody who's voting no, now raise their hand. And I'm trying to vote. I'm sorry, I'm trying to actually vote no, and it's not.
I'll record it for you. Thank you.
I don't know why I'm not able to do that. That's odd.
But we can record it. It's you. So that's.
I understand. I just don't know why. Oh, here it goes. I apologize. I was muting myself. So the no's are.
Mr. Mooring, Ms. Robinson, yes.
Okay. Okay, please put your hands down. And I'm saying that as I'm not doing that. Lower your hands. And then is there anybody? Suba, you voted no, correct?
That's correct.
Can you put your hand down, Suba? And then Suba's voting no, but is anybody else is abstaining? I don't think anybody's abstaining.
No, there are not.
So it looks like the motion passes. And hoping that when we get the June 24th guidelines, we'll hear more about this. Okay, so is there anything else anybody wanted to pull off of the consent agenda? I didn't receive any emails to that effect, but I want to give anybody a chance right now.
I do not see any.
Okay, so so I would like to ask for a motion to approve as a consent agenda the rest of the agenda. So do I have a motion to approve?
That would be Ms. Finger,
Thank you. And do I have a second?
and our second would be Mr. Maury.
Okay, so if everybody can put their hands down. Sorry about this, everyone. Okay, all in favor, now please raise your hand. And it looks like I've got everybody in
Yes.
favor of the consent agenda, so I don't need to ask if there's any no's or abstains. Okay, so the consent agenda passes. Ms. LaPera, do you mind sharing the upcoming meeting dates, please?
I do not. We have July 16th Facilities and Committee meeting at 8:30 a.m. And then we have the July 20th regular business board meeting at 8 p.m.
Okay, and then we will be advertising, trying to lower my hand for you. We will be advertising the ad hoc committee on racism and equality as soon as we know when we're doing that. We'll make sure that's advertised widely. Mr. Copeland, is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
No, there's not.
Okay, thank you once again to Ms. LaPera for running this meeting.
For juggling.
For juggling, yes. And no, we really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for attending. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.